need to do.
Le chef de l'opposition.
Oui, alors.
The honorable leader of the opposition. Yes, it's time for a debate. It's time for an election, Mr. Speaker. Just yesterday, the Bloc Québécois repeatedly voted against an election and voted for keeping this government in power. The leader of the Bloc Québécois will have to face the fact that the Conservatives want to cut the GST on new housing, but the Liberals want to do the opposite. The Bloc Québécois wants to increase the bureaucracy. The Bloc Québécois wants to make the bureaucracy bigger. We would get rid of it. This is the kind of choice that Quebecers are facing. Once again, we're hearing questions coming from all parties that have nothing to do with the federal administration, but I see the Prime Minister is rising. Well, Mr. Speaker, yesterday we voted for all sorts of things. For example, the Holocaust commemoration program, the Canada Housing Benefit, and all sorts of other things. But the Conservatives voted against that. We voted for emergency funding for veterans. We voted for the National Child Protection Strategy to protect them from online harms. But the Conservatives voted against that. Yes, I recognize that parliamentarians from other parties voted in favor of all those good things. But the Conservatives are constantly voting against what is actually going to help Canadians. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Minister who's lost control of spending, debt, and inflation. Workers are now forced to fight to make up lost wages. That's why last year Canada had more strikes than any year since 1981. That is, since the last Trudeau was breaking the country and its economy. Now, Mr. Speaker, Canadians are suffering because they can't get their donations to charities, small businesses can't get their payments, and the economy is losing millions. Will he sit down the two sides, get a deal, and put an end to this dreadful strike?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Unlike the Conservative Party, whose attacks on unions are well documented from 575 and 377, their anti-union bills that the Leader of the Opposition voted for, from continually choosing to use back-to-work legislation, as they did time and time again, we believe that the best deals happen at the bargaining table, which is why the Minister has got the two sides of Canada Post together to try and find a solution that will work. Mr. Speaker, we know small businesses are hurting, Canadians in rural and remote areas are hurting. We will continue to look to help them, and we get this resolved the right way.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Il est faible. Il a perdu le...
He's weak. He has lost control of spending. He has lost control of the debt and of inflation, which means that workers need to fight for a pay rise. And last year, we saw the highest number of strikes since 1981. Which was when his father broke the economy. And now there's a strike at Canada Post, which is hurting our economy, small businesses, nonprofits. When will the Prime Minister get both sides of the table to put an end to the strike? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the Conservative Party's hostility to workers, towards unions, is well documented. I don't need to say anything more about it. But what we will do is ensure that the best possible agreements are brought to the negotiation table, and that's why we encourage all parties to continue to negotiate, because we know everyone is struggling. Non-profits are struggling. Canadians in remote and rural areas are struggling. They depend on Canada Post, and that is why we need solutions, and we are working on that.
Honorable député de